Okay, welcome everybody to the first Bellevue City Council meeting for 2024 on January 2nd. I'm very happy to welcome our new council members, Councilmember Hamilton and Malakutian tonight to the council. City Clerk, I'm acting as temporary chair tonight, having been voted in at our last meeting in 23. City Clerk, could you please do the roll call?
Thank you. Chair Robinson?
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton? Here. Councilmember Lee?
Here.
Councilmember Malakutian?
Here.
Councilmember Neuenhouse?
Here.
Councilmember Stokes?
Here.
And Councilmember Zahn.
Here. Councilmember, lead us in the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So first on our agenda is the election of our mayor and deputy mayor, and I am going to ask the city clerk to explain the process. There she is.
Thank you, Chair Robinson. Get myself to do many things at one time here. So as you will recall, and as Chair Robinson noted, she was voted temporary chair for tonight's meeting back at our December 11th, 2023 meeting. And she will be presiding over the election of the mayor this evening, and then the gavel will be turned to the newly elected mayor to conduct the election for the deputy mayor. So for those of you not wholly familiar with how Bellevue is governed, the city follows the council manager form of government, which calls for a mayor and deputy mayor to be elected at the first business meeting of each even-numbered year. So the mayor acts as the city council's presiding officer, represents the city in a number of forums, and performs a number of ceremonial roles. So at the conclusion of tonight's election after the mayor, the gavel will go to the new mayor, and the deputy mayor election will follow the same process. Also at the December 11th council meeting, the council voted to put in place a method to conduct the election this evening, whereby voting all nominees simultaneously via a written ballot process. The results of tonight's written ballots will be tabulated by myself and then read aloud. So to go into a little bit of the details for this evening, the temporary chair, Robinson, will call for nominations for the position of mayor. Nominations do not require a second. Each council member may nominate no more than one person for the position of mayor. Council members are allowed to nominate themselves. When no further nominations are forthcoming, the chair will close the floor to nominations. And even if only one nominee is put forth for the election, we still do have to work through the ballot process, so the ballots will be handed out. Ms. Luce and Mr. Al-Gazable will hand out ballots and then collect the executed ballots. I'll then complete the teller's report and read the results aloud. If a council member receives a majority vote, which is 4 votes in this case, they will be declared the new mayor, and the gavel will go to that mayor, and then the election for the deputy mayor will follow the same process. If the council does not select a mayor from the first round of balloting, multiple rounds of balloting will be used, and the same process will be used as many times as necessary to obtain the majority vote. After several rounds of balloting with no clear majority, or if there is a tie, the council can take a brief recess and can reopen nominations with a majority vote. And with that, I will turn it back to you, Chair Robinson.
Okay, are there any questions from anybody? Okay, with that, I will open the floor for nominations.
I nominate Chair Robinson for mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other nominations? Okay, I'll close the floor for nominations and call for the vote. So you're going to pass out. There we go. Thank you. Me too.
Thank you.
And the results are as follows. Councilmember Hamilton votes for Councilmember Robinson. Councilmember Lee votes for Councilmember Robinson. Councilmember Malakutian votes for Councilmember Robinson. Councilmember Newenhouse votes for Councilmember Robinson. Councilmember Robinson votes for Councilmember Robinson, excuse me. Councilmember Stokes votes for Councilmember Robinson. And Councilmember Zahn votes for Councilmember Robinson. And with that, the Councilmember Robinson is declared mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we're doing deputy mayor. So the floor is now open for nominations.
I nominate Councilmember Malakutian.
Okay, any other nominations for deputy mayor? Okay, I will close the floor for nominations and call for the vote. Thank you.
Votes for Councilmember Malakutian. Councilmember Lee votes for Councilmember Malakutian. Councilmember Malakutian votes for Councilmember Malakutian. Councilmember Newenhouse votes for Councilmember Malakutian. Councilmember Robinson votes for Councilmember Malakutian. Councilmember Stokes votes for Councilmember Malakutian. And Councilmember Zahn votes for Councilmember Malakutian. And with that, Councilmember Malakutian is elected deputy mayor.
Congratulations. Well, I want to congratulate Deputy Mayor Malakutian, but I want to take a moment to thank Councilmember Newenhouse for his 4 years of leadership to the City Council. He did an excellent job, and we very much appreciated his service to the city. Let's give him a hand. With that, we're going to take a recess for photos, and we will be back in about 20 minutes. That's at 6:30, let's say. Okay, we will resume now. Next, we have approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Second. Oh, sorry.
Can
I
someone-
move to-
I move to approve the agenda?
And who wa-
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and then we have oral communications. City Clerk, do we have anybody signed up for oral communications tonight?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. There are 3 pre-registered speakers this evening. So before I start calling names, I'll go over a few of the rules that the council has in place. So oral communications is for a period of no more than 30 minutes, and topics must relate to City of Bellevue government. People speaking to items on tonight's agenda will be called first, and if time remains, people speaking to items not on the agenda will be called. The presiding officer is authorized in both categories to give preference to those who have not spoken to the council within the last 60 days or who are speaking to items anticipated to come on the council's agenda within the next 60 days. Speakers are allowed up to 3 minutes to speak, and only 3 speakers are allowed to speak to any one side of a particular topic. And at this point, I will call our first speaker, who is Craig Spiesel, who is joining us virtually. Mr. Spiesel, can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Your time begins now.
Great. Thank you, and good evening and Happy New Year. My name is Chris. I am a resident of Bellevue. And first, I'd like to welcome, and I should say, congratulate Councilmember Hamilton and Deputy Mayor. Congratulations. I'm speaking tonight as a follow-up my comments submitted on December 4th and July 23rd, providing recommendations to re-engineer policies and processes for oral comments and community engagement. And I'm happy to report that after meeting with Acting City Manager Carlson last month, I've learned the city's important steps to help address the need for uniform policies and oral comments, including providing video recordings for all meetings. Thank you. Moving forward, it's also important to acknowledge the need for more objective and all-encompassing community engagement strategies, be more inclusive, and help ensure the voices of W residents and businesses are prioritized over external special interest groups. Following are 3 key community engagement recommendations, which are a subset of recommendations I previously have complete and unbiased information to provide a more comprehensive understanding of the trade-offs and adjacencies. Establish an independent review of outreach strategies for all departments. Staff asserts their robust and community engagement plans, but results of different stories. Information provided at times has lacked impartiality.
Mr. Spiesel, I'm going to stop you for just a moment there. Can we stop the clock? I'm having trouble hearing you. You're kind of fading in and out. I know that you submitted this in a letter to the council, but since you are speaking to us, we'd like to be able to hear you more clearly. So I don't know if it's on your end or our end, but if there's anything you can do that you're not fading in and out, that would be great.
Let me just try a different speaker or a microphone, excuse me. So apologize for the, is this any better?
That
Hello?
seems better.
Thank you. Let me get back to my comments here, and I apologize. Number 1, establish independent review of outreach strategies. Frequently, staff asserts they have completed robust community engagement, but results have told a different story. Information provided at time has lacked impartiality, and the methodology have not adhered to generally accepted research practices. To address this issue, I am proposing a review process, including appointing an independent city staff member, a business community leader, and a neighborhood leader who would serve in a consultative role with the authority to approve and revise such plans. The benefits would be significant. It would actually streamline the development of such engagement plans and leverage best practices and data citywide. Number 2 is engage neighborhood associations as key stakeholders. The city should reconvene bi-monthly meetings of neighborhood community leaders to provide advance notice of projects in progress and in the pipeline. The benefits would provide a forum for early input in advance of calls for public comments. Such meetings should also be recorded as being proposed for all council and commission meetings. And number 3 is provide ample time for public feedback. The public comment period should correlate to the complexity of the information being presented by staff.
Mr. Spiesel,
Yes.
I apologize. Your time has expired. If you do have additional comments, please email the council.
Thank you very much.
The next speaker on our list is Sally Lawrence.
Hello, Happy New Year to the City Council, and welcome to our newest members, David Hamilton and Mo Malakutian. Congratulations on your elections. Save Coal Creek thought we would start the new year right by addressing you, and we have provided a document that has come to you probably from the city clerk, and it summarizes the benefits that we see accruing to the city if we should be successful in making a purchase of the Milt Swanson property. It's currently owned, it's down on Lakemont Boulevard in South Bellevue, currently owned by Isola Homes, who are planning to build a 35-home development. But we believe this developer is ready to open conversations with the city about a purchase. So our ask to you tonight is to encourage those conversations to go forward and to make 2024 the year that this property is added to the spectacular Coal Creek Natural Area. And these are the things that property can bring to the existing natural area. It has real historic value. Milt Swanson and his father and grandfather lived there going back to the early 1900s when the coal mining industry was at its peak. And there was a village of 1,000 people. There are still remnants of mining infrastructure along the creek that could be made even more relevant to school groups, families, even tourists. I know on the agenda you are going to be talking about helping with tourism in Bellevue. This would add a really interesting period of Bellevue's history to somebody's agenda who's looking around the city. And it has the advantages of a fairly open meadow where people who are not able to navigate the steep trails, again, school kids, the elderly, someone who we might have some wheelchair accessibility, can take advantage of that open, flat area. There's a historic barn, and perhaps certain structures could be saved. The other couple important points, the city has invested some $25 million in infrastructure improvements in the creek itself, and these have led to improved stream conditions for living things, for the bugs that live at the bottom of the creek, and that has brought us more salmon coming back to Coal Creek. And finally, this is a place that's important both regionally as well as to Bellevue citizens. And the extraordinary gift proposed award of
Ms. Lawrence.
$9.2 million to the
Ms.
city
Lawrence, I apologize. Your time has expired.
Okay. Should
You
not
have
be
a-
passed up.
Additional comments, you can email the council. And that brings us to our final pre-registered speaker, who's Alex Zimmerman.
Happy New Year, my lovely consul. The Heil, a dirty damn Nazi fascist, a junta. My name Alex Zimmerman, and I want to speak about something what is I see everywhere right now, include commissioner meeting. You have new rule 6257, what is totally cut. People of freedom of speech everywhere now. And this going progress right now, because situation what is we have right now, today something happened as I never see before in my life in American, almost 40 years. Yeah, 35 plus. You show today everybody, so who number one American people enemy in pure anti-Semite. Elect candidate, elect consul more for deputy show is a pure aggression, new, it's a start aggression of war about against American and against Jew. It's very simple.
Mr. Zimmerman, you need to speak to things that the Bellevue City Council hasn't voted on.
No, I call her. She told me I'm supposed to be speak about something that belong to city. It's belong to city. Why you interrupt
It
me?
has to have something to do with what the Bellevue City Council has control of.
What is you interrupt? Why you
So
always
just stick
interrupt me?
to work
Are
that
you
the city council
anti-Semite,
does,
pathological
please.
anti-Semite? Why you only one man in this city from 150,000 when you interrupt in every meeting for years? Why? Can you explain to me? Why?
I can explain the rules again.
What is the rule you talking about?
You need to
I
speak
never
to
broken a
something
rule
that
in
the
my
city
life.
council has purview over.
No, but you aggressor. You are very aggressor. You did right now open a war against American people and Jew. Elect him a deputy who 10 years only here and work for Amazon. So you pure fascism because classic fascism, government together with corporations and blood and
Okay, I'm
money.
going to ask you to stop and to leave. You're not speaking about anything that we have anything to do with our city council agenda items or anything that we have a
No, but she
purview
told me
over.
I can speak everything.
Well, She may have made a
talked to her
mistake.
30 minutes
Anyway,
ago.
I'm going to ask you to leave now.
No, why you interrupt only me? I can explain to me. It's
And we can
1,000
take a
people
break
come and speak
if
for
you
you.
don't wanna
But you
leave.
interrupt only
We
me.
can take a
Why?
break.
Why?
All right.
Is this a freedom of speech?
We'll take a
Why are you
three-minute break
talking
and we'll
about?
come
huh?
back at 11:45. Anybody else signed up for oral communications?
There were no additional pre-registered speakers, so at this point, we do have some time left in oral communications. I'd ask if there's anyone joining us this evening who would like to make comment to the council. If so, please raise your hand, and that includes those online. Okay, I do see one hand online, and that is Joe Kunzler. Oh, apologies, Mr. Kunzler, we have someone at the table. Thank you.
My name is Steve Williams. I've been a Bellevue resident for 38 years, and this does deal with Bellevue parks and, again, Save Coal Creek. Nonverbal communication, I hope, is effective. I support everything that Sally said. Just to let you know, we are doing a hike on February 18th for the general public. On the 25th of February, I'll be doing a 2-hour program on coal mining history at Lewis Creek Park, also a Bellevue Park facility. So you've got a wonderful resource there. And we've also have the book, which I gave the council, so your new members, be sure and check this out. There's plenty of things on record. But there's no substitute for going out there and being on the trail and realizing this is the railroad grade that in 1883 connected Bellevue to Seattle and for 50 years supplied coal to the whole West Coast. We had 1,000 people there. It was one of the largest cities on the east side of Lake Washington at the time. This is all part of our cultural history. And you now have one of the few last barns and agricultural sites in South Bellevue. Think of the possibility of having a farm tractor there and some open plowed field and actually crops in progress. Having a plaza in front of the barn where you could have interpretive programs, maybe a shelter inside the barn on nice liquid sunshine days like this where you could get out of the weather and enjoy interpretive signage and living history tales of what was going on there. So East Side Heritage Center and the Newcastle Historical Society both provide lots of information and lots of programs about the history of coal mining in this area. And I know we want to all be proud of our computers and our airplanes, but we came from pioneers who had the courage to come here from Europe, not even knowing the language, and working hard every day, establishing schools and churches, raising their kids to be productive citizens, and that's the foundation of the kind of history and community we have now. So I think we really want to honor that history and make it part of Coal Creek Park and provide some parking there. Bellevue's largest park, 445 acres, and you've got less than 30 slots for cars and virtually no bus transportation. So we need to work on those things also to make it accessible to the general public, as well as the 200 school kids we take out there every year from Eastgate Elementary. When they see that hole in the ground and the pick marks on the ceiling and realize people did physical work out here and dug into the mountain, got coal out, and kept ships and railroads on the whole West Coast running for almost 100 years. So it's a great history. I think we need to be proud of it. Thank you.
May I ask that presentations to our staff so that they can get those on our council calendar? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. There was an additional hand online, and that's Joe Kunzler. Mr. Kunzler, can you hear me?
So much.
Thank you.
I want to just briefly congratulate Mayor Robinson on re-election to the mayoralty. That's a huge accomplishment for a great defender of our commons against Adolph Zimmerman, which is very much appreciated. I also want to congratulate Vice Mayor Momakutian. I have a speech disability, so please forgive me. But I want to congratulate you on your many accomplishments in America. You immigrated here on faith. You came here. You have helped build up one of our nation's greatest companies in Amazon, and now you're giving so much of yourself, as well as your colleagues, to build up one of Washington State's, the best state in the union's greatest cities, and the second greatest city in Washington State in Bellevue. So it's really a great night to celebrate. And it's also any night that Alex Zimmerman is thrown out is a great night to celebrate. I don't think he should be allowed to come here and comment anymore, or at least for a year. He earlier today disrupted Seattle City Council again, and they're working on getting him banned, just so you know. But again, congratulations, Mayor Robinson City Council. I wish you well. And I want you to know I got your back. I'm giving Redmond some hell for letting Alex attack you from there. And they know consequences are coming if that behavior continues. So congratulations again. Thank you. I'll mute now.
Do not see any additional hands, Mayor. I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have the report of the city manager. Ms. Carlson, would you like to
Thank you,
give
Mayor
that, please?
Robinson, Deputy Mayor Malakutian, and council members. For the manager's report tonight, we have an update on the Bellevue Fire Department's Wildland Fire Program, which was restarted in 2023. This is an informational item, so no direction is being asked. And joining for the presentation tonight, we have our Fire Chief, Jay Hagan, and our Deputy Fire Chief, Dave Bestie. And with that, I will turn it over to Chief Hagan.
Mayor Robinson, Deputy Mayor Malakutian, and members of council and City Manager Carlson, thank you for the opportunity this evening to brief you on the Bellevue Fire Department Wildland Firefighting Program and a recap of the 23 season. To my left is Deputy Chief Dave Bestie, who's been a Bellevue employee for many, many years, and he is commander of the Bureau of Support Services. Dave?
Thank you, Chief. The purpose of the presentation tonight is to inform you regarding the 2023 Wildland season and the Bellevue Fire Department's Wildland Program. No different than our commitment to EMS, make sure I move ahead on our slides. No different than our commitment to EMS, fire prevention, training, wildland firefighting is one of the disciplines that makes up our suppression division. It's noteworthy that just as we use to provide automatic assistance to our neighbors, the same holds true for wildland type fires. The Bellevue Fire Department has had a wildland program for decades. Our goal is as a continually improving department to enhance, support, and grow the program. Over the past few years, the prevalence of wildfires west of the Cascades has grown significantly. In fact, Department of Natural Resources has issued an increased risk rating for wildland fires in pockets of Bellevue. They include the Cougar Mountain, Lakemont area, the Bridle Trails, Norwood Village, and smaller pockets of Eastgate and Lake Hills communities. In 2023, our wildland program was enhanced with Brush 101 to 2023 F550 wildland type apparatus that we placed in service in July. That was thanks to the generous private donations with the help of the Bellevue Fire Foundation, whose president, Laura Mathers, is with us today in the audience. It's important to recognize that the wildland program in the city of Bellevue's fire department has been there for decades. Like I said, we continue to enhance and support it as we move forward. As the agenda illustrates, we will be discussing 4 key areas tonight. The review of the makeup of the Bellevue Fire Department's Wildland Team, a review of our 2023 wildland development across the region, highlights of several key successful partnerships we've felt were valuable in helping our programs continue development, and share our presentations for the upcoming 2024 wildland season. Benefits to the Wildland Program. We had 22 members in 2023 deploy on to 8 mobilizations, 2 of which included the brush truck. They provide incredible staff developmental opportunities, critical real-world incident experience, and other recess knowledge to better protect our community. They include positions for wildland fire suppression, EMS leadership positions, and logistical incident command roles. We also get to develop critical relationships that will be key in helping manage our large-scale wildland incidents in Bellevue. And then finally, there are unique opportunities to help our neighbors in the community across the Pacific Northwest, which was demonstrated by our staff's response both locally and regionally last year. A decade in wildfire service. In 2023, Bellevue Fire responded to over 320 incidents coded as natural vegetation fires. They include brush fires, grass fires, forest and wood or wildland fires, beauty bark fires. We atypically experience house fires in July and August during the heat of the area that are caused by structure fires. So a house fire that grows into some type of brush fire just because it's hot and low humidity. Unfortunately, several of the most significant wildfire seasons in Washington history have occurred over the last 9 years. 2015 was the worst fire season recorded with the most square miles burnt throughout the state. The second worst was in 2020 and the third in 2021. In 2023, we did not see the same number of square miles burned throughout the state. However, as of the 12th of December, the last fire season ranked second in the reported number of fire starts. The most was in 2015 by about 25 more starts during the year. With the support of the Bellevue City Council and the Bellevue Fire Foundation, the department is properly equipped and resourced to provide wildland fire suppression services to address the trends of longer and increased severity of fire seasons. The makeup of the Wildland Team is made up through approximately 40-plus members of the department. Pictured above are the 3 members of our Wildland Team preparing to depart for one of the first mobilizations of the new Wildland brush truck. An example of how we put the team together, there's not one station that has all these people. So in the picture is Lieutenant Russ Ordonia, who normally works at Station 9 in Newcastle, Firefighter Nate Blissmiller, who's assigned to Station 4 in Factoria, and Firefighter Juan Alvarezo, I can't even pronounce that, who's normally assigned to Station 2 in Eastgate. Apologize. For 2024, we're expecting to certify approximately 40-plus more firefighters this upcoming wildland firefighting season. To become certified as a wildland firefighter takes over 40 hours of training. That's just the basic firefighting. There are many skills needed to go out and serve in the wildland community for fighting fires and to operate the brush truck. The basic is just the 40-plus hours initially, and then there's reoccurring training throughout the year. There are hundreds of different specialty positions within the national system for governing wildland firefighting. We have members that hold just a few of those certifications. Due to the specific nature and specialized training for wildland firefighting, large incidents typically require a regional effort, similar to our current process for automatic and mutual aid, with potential resources from across the state traveling to help these huge incidents. If the city of Bellevue were to experience a large wildfire, these same types of resources would travel to our area to help manage these complex incidents. The partnerships we've occurred over the years as a wildland program include the Washington State Department of Natural Resources. And let me start by just to purchase the brush truck took multiple departments and organizations to help get through that process. They included the City of Bellevue's Finance and Asset Management Division, the City of Bellevue's Risk Management Office, the neighboring jurisdictions with similar brush trucks, the Bellevue Fire Foundation with input from the fire chief recognizing the need, and the private donors successfully helping us purchase that unit. And then mobilization and training requirements are a huge other aspect that takes on regional partnerships. They include the Washington State Department of Natural Resources for the training. The Redmond Fire Department and Eastside Fire and Rescue Departments are community members in support. The City of Bellevue Finance and Asset Management, specifically the resource reimbursement and fleet management systems. It's important to recognize that these brush trucks aren't just like a fire engine that you can schedule the maintenance on. When they go out to a fire, the air filters need to be changed multiple times during the event. So it's not just a once every year, it's multiple events, and the very minimum is every time they come back. So there's maintenance that has to be managed, and the fleet does that for us and helps us with that. The City of Bellevue Parks Department helps us with the training. They identify areas that we can do real-life training in real scenarios, and helps us find those resources and manage them. And then the City of Bellevue Risk Management Office, again, to help us stay safe and make sure we're following the legal requirements. What we're going to do in the 2023-24 off-season, some of that's already started. We've developed a refresher curriculum planning for 2024. We've met with the DNR liaisons for records management and update of our database systems. In the first couple months of this year, we'll wrap up our mobilization improvement plans. We'll do onboarding of additional program assistant leads. We'll launch our specialized classes, which include a pack test where they have to go out and hike a couple miles with all their equipment to make sure they're physically fit to be able to do the job. They also have to practice throwing a shelter. So the fire shelters, if they're overrun, they have to get into them and practice them each year. And then the ongoing classes that are part of that process. And then by the end of May, again, we'll be equipped and prepared for the department's fire season starting the end of May. To wrap up, 5 of the worst of the 7 fire seasons occurred in the last 10 years. 3 of the Washington State 10 biggest conflagrations occurred in 2020. The many benefits of participating in statewide responses are well known. We continue to strive towards a continually improving department, and we are grateful for the support of the City of Bellevue, the Bellevue City Council, the Bellevue Fire Foundation, other City of Bellevue departments, and multiple outside agencies. We appreciate the opportunity to share at tonight's meeting, and we'll hand it back to City Manager Carlson. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that report. Moving on to the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Does it matter? Did you get that? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We have one study session item tonight. And City Manager, would you please introduce that for us?
Thank you, Mayor. Unbelievably so, the legislature is about ready to start again. And so tonight, we're here to provide a preview of the 2024 session, which begins on January 8th. This is informational. No direction is being asked, but you'll have opportunity for questions. And joining, we have Genesee Adkins, Chief of External Affairs from the City Manager's Office. Genesee?
Thank you, Acting City Manager Carlson, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. It is a pleasure to be with you this evening. Yes, it is hard to believe that it is already that time again, but we're excited to look forward to the kickoff of the state legislative session, so I'll just get right to it. So tonight is just for information. This is just an update for you on what we expect to happen in Olympia starting on Monday. Just for information only, to really give you some context and lay of the land for the session ahead of us. All right, so what I'll go through tonight is just a preview of what we expect that legislative session broadly to look like, a recap of Bellevue's adopted state legislative agenda, AWC's legislative priorities, and then what our timeline and next step look like for the session ahead of us. All right, so our upcoming legislative session will kick off on January 8th, so this coming Monday. It is what we call a short session. It's a 60-day session. The majorities are unchanged because this was not a legislative election cycle this past November. Democrats have pretty wide majorities in both the House and Senate chambers. This will be a year where they focus on supplemental budgets. So again, very similar to the city of Bellevue, we have a 2-year budget, and then we do a mid-buy budget update that you all just completed a few weeks ago. Similarly, the state did its major two-year budgets, operating, capital, and transportation, in April. This is just kind of their mid-buy. This is their supplemental budgets. These are relatively minor adjustments compared to what they did in April of 2023. The supplemental budget work is informed by the work of the Economic Revenue and Forecast Council. They did their most recent revenue and economic preview in late November. They will do one more February 20th. They will basically have the supplemental budgets kind of written in pencil. They'll wait for that last piece of data from the revenue forecast, February 20th, to kind of go, okay, yeah, do we have enough, right? It's like your bank account. Do I have enough money to cover the check I'm about to write? Yep. Okay, good. We can go ahead and spend that money. So that's right after February 20th will be when things really focus, kind of shift toward the budget end of the legislative session. The session will be over by March 8th. So it is going to be a really short distance between that final revenue review in February and then when they adjourn. So it'll move really fast. I'm going to cover just a little bit on some hot topics that we expect to be major issues discussed during the session, and you all have this in the memo that is included in your materials for this evening as well. But I'll just hum a few bars on each one of these just to give you, again, a little bit of a broad lay of the land of what we expect this session. So in terms of the supplemental budgets, we did see from Governor Inslee the second full week of December. We saw him propose his supplemental budgets for the operating budget, the capital budget, and the transportation budget. He did propose increases in investment and spending in a number of different areas, many of which echo or amplify some of Bellevue's adopted priorities. And so we can talk a little bit about that. He proposes to spend different revenue sources, including, and this is a good segue into the next thing, some of the Climate Commitment Act funding. You've all read in the newspapers, I'm sure, about the Climate Commitment Act or the Cap and Invest law that we have here in Washington. It is bringing in far more revenue than was anticipated and budgeted. It is on track to bring in, during this biennium, more than $1 billion, more than was anticipated. And so the governor and many other people are getting very interested in how they might spend some of that unanticipated revenue. In the same breath, or something, I will also mention that this is one of the 6 topics that is the subject of an initiative that has been submitted to the legislature. As of right now, there have been 6 initiatives submitted to the legislature. That is if all 6 are certified, and they're right now in front of the Secretary of State's office for certification, but they do, it looks like, have the number required of signatures to move forward, it would set a record for the number of initiatives going to the legislature in any one year. This is a repeal of the Climate Commitment Act is one of those topics. There are 5 others right now. The Secretary of State is reviewing all of them, and his office will be working on certification between now and mid-February. So one of the things that is kind of why this is a hot topic, in addition to the unanticipated revenue, is that some legislators are wondering whether or not they should make some revisions to the Climate Commitment Act and the way that it is structured. But because there has been an initiative submitted that may be perceived as designing an alternative to the initiative. So this is going to get very interesting, and we will monitor this in terms of what kind of impacts this may have for the city of Bellevue. Some of this revenue, for example, I believe in his proposed supplemental operating budget, is proposed to help residents buy or subsidize new electric heat pumps to try to make conversions from oil furnaces. That's something that is consistent with some of our objectives. So it'll be really interesting to see how the initiative and other conversations around the Climate Commitment Act play out. The next item on this hot topics list is transit-oriented development. Some of you may remember that this was a very big item of discussion last session. There was governor request legislation last year from Senator Marco Lias and from Representative Julia Reed last year. Bellevue weighed in quite substantially on the substance to really try to get them to be informed by the experience we've had around transit-oriented development in Bellevue to date, in Bel Red and downtown. We're really trying to help them with some of the implementation details. That legislation did get high-centered at the end of last session and did not move forward out of the House. New legislation will be back. This is something we've been working with legislators on in the interim. And it continues to evolve. It looks like they've been vacillating the different sponsors, primarily now Representative Reed in the House, Representative Fye in the House, and Senator Trudeau in the Senate, have been working together to try to find more of a moderate compromise on transit-oriented development, something that would potentially be more incentive-driven than mandate-driven. Again, we're waiting to see kind of where they land. One of the biggest issues for us, we're working on a number of the substantive issues of this conversation and topic. One of the biggest ones is around timing and how, given how far along we are in the comprehensive plan process, we're really concerned about what the implementation date is of the requirements of any potential new transit-oriented development work, because if that were to derail our comprehensive plan, that would have really, really extraordinary ramifications for our process in terms of the environmental process and public engagement process. So we're asking them whether or not they could make those requirements effective at the 5-year update. We do feel like we're working really hard to maximize transit-oriented development opportunities in our comp plan, but this is really important legislation for them to be thoughtful about. So we're trying to really ask them to be very mindful about the substance and the details, because it is really detailed, which again, we don't love land use legislation that is highly detailed at the statewide level, because cities are also unique. But if they're going to be very detailed, we want to weigh in and make sure the details serve Bellevue's interest. The next thing I'll mention on here, transportation funding challenges. You'll see in the memo that is attached in your materials, there are a number of different drivers at play with the transportation budget. A couple of them are because of labor and supply chain shortages. The bids on statewide projects associated with the Move Ahead Washington package from just a couple of years ago are coming in far over, sometimes double the engineers' estimates. So there is an extraordinary shortfall in the transportation budget. Legislators are probably going to lay foundation this year for a likely transportation package in 2025. So I don't expect there to be any movement on transportation funding this session, but instead they will be kind of teeing it up or putting a springboard in place to really get that moving. There are also, you'll see in the memo, there are also some shortfalls specific to culvert replacement funding, and there is a federal consent decree in place with the Native American tribes. So this is something that really has to be addressed through some additional funding to be found somewhere. But it will not be during this session. We are not immune from this. This affects I-405 and our project there. We've been working with the other agencies and WashDOT diligently to, again, really make the case for how to solve the funding gap for I-405. So this will be an ongoing conversation, not just in the short session, but quite a lot in the interim and going into the long session. Organized retail theft. This is the result of a task force that Attorney General Bob Ferguson kicked off during the interim during the summer last year. You know that our own chief, Wendell Shirley, is part of his task force. We expect legislation to come forward to address organized retail theft. We haven't seen it yet, and we don't know who the prime sponsors will be. This has really been an enterprise and initiative driven by the Attorney General himself. So we don't know what form this will take, but we are keeping our eyes peeled. And we know that one of the Senate committees took up this issue and had a work session on it during the committee assembly at the end of November, early December. So we think that it will be something, and we're really interested in that because we know it's affecting a lot of Bellevue small businesses. And then finally, the last hot topic that we've called out here is House Bill 1110 implementation. Our staff have been working with other cities and the Department of Commerce on the implementation of House Bill 1110. They're working on some model ordinances and policies, and we've been working on that. Meanwhile, the original sponsor of House Bill 1110 intends to come back with what is called a trailer bill or a cleanup bill on House Bill 1110 that Representative Bateman intends to just be a number of technical fixes, but sometimes though it is a technical fix is in the eye of the beholder. And so I was chatting with our contract lobbyist earlier today, and I said, are these really technical fixes, or are they potentially more substantive? And she said, it will really, we will see. We don't have legislation yet. We will see. Apparently, a lot of it has to do with the way that parcels having some partial critical areas may be treated. So we're going to watch that really closely. This really affects us quite substantially, and we believe she's going to work with Representative Barkas potentially on some other land use legislation as well. Last year was a very, very busy session on land use and housing. We think that this one may as well. Again, with the comprehensive plan right over our shoulders, we're really taking very seriously any major legislation that would come in under the heading of land use, housing, or development. So those are your hot topics, and that's just, a taste. So it's going to keep us busy. These are our adopted city priorities. We, again, picked up last year's 2-year state legislative agenda and then really kind of honed it when we adopted it with your input in October. The two really high priorities for us are the categories of affordable housing and land use, really trying to get the state to invest in affordable housing at the local level, trying to shape and influence those bills around transit-oriented development and other related bills in affordable housing and land use, and continuing to voice cities' interests in new and flexible local funding options. And then the second category, infrastructure for a growing community. There are 3 main items here, and I have a couple of little updates here. One is around the electric fire engine and charging infrastructure. You all may recall that the city of Bellevue was successful in winning a grant award from the State Department of Ecology to help subsidize the purchase of an electric fire engine. We're very excited to be one of 3 first departments in the state to be selected to do so and move forward in that innovative space. But the price of securing a new engine is prohibitively expensive. We are working both on a federal earmark with our congressional delegation, and in parallel, we are actually seeking a little bit of state funding because it is more than double the cost to buy an electric engine. And so this really would close that last little bit of a financial gap. And we're doing this in tandem with the city of Redmond. So it is Redmond and Bellevue together, working with our 48th district legislators as well as our 41st district legislators to really try to put this through. It looks like this is going to be an operating budget request. We spent some time doing some sleuthing with staff during the run-up to session to find out, is this capital? Is it operating as transportation? It has a little bit of a flavor of each, but it looks like this will be an operating budget request. And then the second thing here, the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trail funding shift. There's funding in the Move Ahead Washington package, but it was pushed out when we started to encounter some of the funding shortfall and the projected project cost overruns in other projects in Move Ahead Washington. This last year got pushed out to a far out biennium. We have been working with our legislators and the governor's office to try to push it up into the next biennium so that we could pull down and match a PSRC federal funding multi-million-dollar award. It needs to be encumbered by June of next year. We are very excited to tell you that the governor's proposed transportation budget makes that change. So this is a really exciting first step. We still have to go through the legislative process. That's what really counts. but to already have that change reflected in the governor's budget is a really auspicious first step. So we're really excited. We took a number of legislators out to the gap, the Bellevue gap on that chunk, and really said, look, this is, if we're going to get people to really use these systems, we really need to close this gap, and we want to leverage those federal dollars. So we're excited that we're moving forward. And then finally, the I-405 funding gap. Because of those things that I mentioned earlier in terms of cost drivers, 405 is looking at least a $275 million shortfall. We are working together with the other cities in the corridor and with WashDOT to try to identify how we can solve that funding gap. It won't be solved likely in the short session, but again, we want to tee up the absolute necessity of closing that gap and finishing what we started, because we know I-405 really is the spine and backbone of the east side, both in terms of commerce and just everyday getting around. So those are our priorities. We also have our statement of state policy that really gives us a broad table to work from when we are trying to really look at the legislation coming before us as we go through the session. I will make sure that you have in your email a shiny copy of our new fun to look at version of the legislative agenda. I'll put this in your email tonight. We're excited to share this with legislators. And this really, it goes into the detail that you all helped craft and adopt this fall. And in terms of, oh, and there it is, looking so pretty. So now we're going to turn toward Olympia, where we work so closely with the Association of Washington Cities. They identified in September their top 4 legislative priorities, and that's what you see verbatim up here. They have adjusted the timing of their city action days to February 7th and 8th in Lacey, and so we're really excited to work with you to identify a good delegation of members of this city council who can join us down there to advocate for not just Bellevue's interests, but also city interests in general. And then in terms of engagement and next steps, we have already had a number of meetings with 41st and 48th district legislators to really make sure that they understand our priorities. Because it is a short session, it will be done by March 8th. That is good and that is bad. It means that they have this much time to give us their attention, and they have just as many people asking them to pay attention to them. So we've tried to get into their offices early and say, these are our top legislative priorities. We really appreciate your advocacy on behalf of Bellevue. We will continue to meet with them, as well as other leaders of different committees, transportation committees, fiscal committees, and we will continue to coordinate with AWC. We have at a staff level, we have a weekly meeting with AWC every Thursday. That's where we do a lot of our information sharing and kind of comparing notes and strategizing, as well as with other stakeholders about the lay of the land, emerging issues. Things move very fast during a short session. We, following tonight's procedures here, we will identify some key dates when we can take some of you down to Olympia in addition to city action days. Those action days come about halfway through the session, so we'd like to get you down there a little bit earlier. So we want to pick a date that works for a critical mass of you all, in addition to the dates in early February, and we will hit the ground running on Monday. As we did last session, I will send you weekly updates on Mondays that just give you kind of a brief update of what's going on in Olympia. And we are always here to answer any questions that you may have about individual bills, what the city is doing. We want to be of service to you and represent your voice in Olympia. So without further ado, that's our update for tonight. I'm happy to take your comments and hear any questions you might have that I can answer for you on the spot or get back to you with later. But we're really excited to get down there and get busy.
Okay, thank you. Let's start with Councilmember Stokes. Any comments or questions?
Yes, we appreciate this very much, sending us up. It's always very, very complicated with this short season and everything, but, and you set this out very well. Are there things that you're working with some of the council members and others and specific things to focus on and maybe go down there and help I think it'd be very helpful how we can be, I know we can't engage in it specifically with the legislators, but anything we can do to help on that. I think we've had extremely good briefings and everything is here. We're very supportive of this, but it sounds like this is one that really is really important for us. We got to come get some home runs on this one, or at least get it going. And appreciate it very much. This is very sets everything out, and it's so many things. How do you keep up with it?
Well, I will mention, Councilmember, we are really trying to continuously refine our approach and the way that we track everything. One of the things that we will be in touch with you about is that as we go through the session, on Thursdays, we get the schedule for the week ahead. And we often turn to the mayor and other council members to say, hey, how can we have your help picking up the phone to call a senator or a representative, getting on a Zoom meeting? They're in person down in Olympia, but they're still doing a lot of their work virtually. And so sometimes you can be real help to us getting on a quick Zoom with some legislators, or testifying, again, which you can do both in person and virtually in most instances. We will take you up on that offer of engagement and support. We don't want to overuse it. We don't want to underuse it. So we'll try to be really savvy and smart about when to deploy you all to help us with those top priorities.
One last follow-up on that. With other groups in the city and organizations and all, obviously you coordinate with those, kind of tell us and the public how we do that and what the scope of that is, and helping us. In other words, having other organizations or groups who have interest in this, how do we work with them in terms of working with the legislature?
Just chat with me, and then I will make sure that we help them get the information that they need. There are a lot of great public resources. We're a lot of our state resources, including the legislature, but especially TVW, really win a lot of national awards for how easy their resources are to use. So we'll make sure that we get them connected, whether it's with city staff or with those public resources. Let's talk and get them what they need.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lee.
Thank you. Madam Mayor. Well, thanks for the presentation. As normal, as usual. You are very detailed in helping us set up our agenda very clearly. And also, you know what the timing is and what is the opportunity we need to step in. One thing I feel is that because, like you said, it's a short session, so we are not actually going to be probably accomplish everything we want to, but we actually want to tee up some of the issues. So I think you've covered most of those that, I feel very well, very comfortable. But there are a few in terms of teeing up. I thought it might be, I would like to emphasize it, which is really in line of transportation. We talk about electric, vehicle, autonomous vehicle, talk about AI, that relates to the whole transportation system. That relates to using technology, how to help the 405 congestion, all that stuff. And I think the city has been doing a great job in smart city initiatives. So we've got lots of good ideas. Bellevue is really recognized as the technology center of the region. So I believe that we need to keep pushing that agenda for the state legislature if they can help us in any way. We don't even have a charging station. I know that state has been giving money to some cities to do that, but we don't have it. I wanted to make sure that we are teeing up, just making sure that they know it's important to us. That's one example, but I think that's a big one. So I would like to maybe for you to consider what others might be able to fit into that category. To do that, I appreciate what Councilmember Stokes was talking about. How can we, as council members, help in pushing some of these initiatives forward? You mentioned we can go to Olympia, but I don't know how many of us do go. I've not been asked to go, not even once, or talk to the legislators. So I think let us know. We may not be able to articulate as well, but with your help and support, I believe that we can convey those messages So give us a heads up, and we'll be happy to help to accomplish those things. It's not just the state legislature. In the future, it's other. You talk about federal funding, where we're excited about $1 billion thing. I think we have a role to work with our regional partners. It's not just Bellevue. It's King County, it's other cities, it's Sun Cities,
Okay,
it's
Councilmember Lee, can you
AWC. So,
wrap up?
okay?
Thank you. All right, Councilmember Zahn. I will give you 30 seconds to finish, please. That's a long-winded explanation, and you can follow up after the meeting if you need to, but go ahead and finish up.
Okay. I'm always long-winded because I have a lot to say. Okay, so I would like you to respond how you're going to have us to help you.
Thank you, Councilmember. So first of all, I want to acknowledge the very well-made point you offered about Lane Foundation for the next year, for the long session. And honestly, some of the things that you mentioned specifically in terms of charging infrastructure, because of that unforeseen windfall in the Climate Commitment Act funds, there may be an opportunity this session. In fact, it's probably that source that we're going to look to, for example, for the charging infrastructure for our electric fire engine. There's a nexus there. And so that may be something that we can take advantage of in the short session or as a result of the short session, and potentially, and certainly as we go into the long session, because you're right, there are a lot of different things all moving together, including the Inflation Reduction Act at the federal level, that all give us some new opportunities. So that's a point well made and well taken. In terms of calling on you to get engaged, we will definitely do that as we go throughout the session. The opportunities pop up very quickly, and so we, work really quickly to find out, who can help us. And so we will do that. And certainly those opportunities to go down to Olympia, that's something that we'll work through the council office to make sure we understand your availability and options for those dates. Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Zahn.
Yes, thank you. I'm really glad that you have this update the week before session begins. And I appreciate also having the dates for city action days, because having gone down there multiple years, it's a good opportunity to collaborate with other cities as well as meet with our legislators. And I always appreciate the preparation that you give us in order to be prepared. And so definitely draw on us, me, to give testimony and have those points. I also appreciate the fact that you guys write some really good talking points that fits within the 1 minute. So those are really important when we're giving testimony, and I appreciate that. Love the fact that the Mountain to Sound Greenway Gap funding seems to be in the budget. I do think it's important for us to look at how the CCA 1 billion plus and what that allocation looks like, and really work on advocating, maybe along with other regional partners, on making sure that that funding is available for the kind of things that are really important to our agenda, because that's a lot of money that we could definitely benefit from to work on our climate actions. And glad that we're part of also the 1110, potentially understanding what's going on with that trailer bill, because I know that our community is really very concerned about how we implement 1110, and if there's some other tweaks and nuances, really understanding that's going to be important in helping to shape that, as well as the TOD. I've heard a lot about TOD and how it works, and so being able to shape that as well so it doesn't derail our efforts will be really important. And then I guess two other things. The affordable housing funding options, you briefly mentioned that. Maybe we could take it offline. I'd like to better understand what are being floated around down there, because when we think about what we need to do with affordable housing, we are definitely short of revenue to generate that. And then my last one I just want to highlight is the $275 million shortfall for the 405. Our project of the phase 3 is really important. And so even if we could, in this short session, find a way to lobby for some seed money, so at least some preliminary engineering could be started, or, planning would be really important, because that gives us opportunities to pursue other grant opportunities, at the federal level. So anyway, a lot to do, and I'm excited that we're getting ready to embark on that, and being able to be as helpful as we can be. Yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Newhouse.
Thank you, Mayor. Genesee, thank you again for all the great work you're doing here, along with Lacey Jane. Let's not forget the great work she does, too, and all the briefings. And we did one with Representative Sen that was great, and all the other ones that you've done. Really, laying the groundwork before the craziness begins down in Olympia. So I think that's so important, and that we get into that cadence to constantly remind everybody about our priorities. Just a couple of quick questions for you. So what I heard from your comments regarding the task force, the retail theft task force. So to me, it sounds like we created, or the Attorney General created the task force, but nothing has really happened since. Is that correct in this last 7-8 months? I'm glad that we got a seat on it, but nothing has really transpired as of yet, or is it still being, it sounds like it's still being put together.
I think they've been, my understanding is they've been meeting. I don't know if they have a work product to hand to the legislature as a bill to take up, but I know they've been meeting.
So there's been, okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's some progress, so
Yes.
that's good. Thank you for that.
I know I can send you more after we get done with the meeting.
That'd be fantastic, thank
Absolutely.
you. And if there's some timelines associated with that, which I'm sure there are, I would love to see that as well. You mentioned AWC here. I'm kind of curious because Bellevue, it does not have a seat on the table at some really important committees with AWC. And AWC is representing Bellevue as a member of AWC. How are we addressing that, especially in Olympia?
That's a great question. So right now we have, let's see, until the end of last year, until last week, we did have a former council member sitting on the Large City Advisory Committee. That's where a lot of the bigger city issues were taken up and discussed. Then we also have, you of course sit for us on the Federal Legislative Committee. And then one thing that we talk about regularly is whether or not we want to advance any of our council members for the AWC Board of Directors. In order to apply or be nominated for the Board of Directors, you have to have basically minimum qualifications, and that includes a number of kind of attendance credits at AWC events. And so that's something that we'd like to be a resource to the council members on, because it would be great to try to advance a council member or two up into the leadership positions of AWC, but you can't just kind of decide to do it. You have to kind of build up your resume of AWC attendance first. And so that's something we'd love to consult with council members on.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. And then my last question, any pre-filed bills that's giving you heartburn so far that you may have taken a look at, or anything outside the lines that we're a little bit concerned about that you might want to highlight at this point?
Oh, man.
And if you don't, if I'm putting you on the spot, that's okay too.
No, I'll take it. I'll take the bait.
All right.
I'd say we've seen a lot of different drafts of that transit-oriented development bill, some of which are more carrot, some of which are more stick.
Yeah.
So we'll be interested to see kind of where that shakes out. I know they've been working over the holidays on that legislation. We're also a little bit concerned about the lot splitting bill that was introduced last legislative session.
Yep.
Didn't pass. As written, it has the potential to double the impact of House Bill 1110. And so the same proponents of 1110, Representative Bateman and Representative Barkas are, I think, working together on that. Oh, and Representative, or nuts, Peterson, Strom Peterson from Snohomish County, is working on that as well. And we've provided some technical comments to say this concerns us because of the amplification that it could have on House Bill 1110, which we are still kind of bracing to absorb. So that's one that we are concerned about for sure. And then we're working on a lot of other legislation and getting those pre-filed bills into our system this week. But those are the couple that I would, because last year was a lot on housing and land use. If we get a lot more heavy legislation this session, it could be challenging. So we're trying to take all that with really a very sober approach.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You bet.
Okay. Councilmember Hamilton.
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. You answered a few of my questions and a couple were asked here, so appreciate that. But a couple of quick comments. You know, I really appreciate a well-organized plan and including our outside stakeholders, and I think you've really put that together really well. This is really critical work. I was part of the group that went to DC and saw how important it was to have a coordinated effort so that we can pursue our priorities, and I think the city has really landed on a couple of great legislative priorities, well done there. And like has been mentioned, look forward to helping support the effort, and if that means going down to Olympia or wherever, I'm certainly glad to be a part of that and help out where I can. So thank you.
Terrific. Thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Malakoutian.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for a great work and presentation. My general comment is, as everyone else mentioned, how can we become more involved and engaged? So please let us know. You already addressed that. But my specific question is, you mentioned about transit-oriented development, and your concern is about the timing and the comprehensive plan timing. Do we have any mitigation plan or scenario-based planning? Do we have anything to, if something happened and it became worst scenario for you in the legislature, what is our plan, or do we have something? You can come back to me if we don't have anything right now.
Well, I'll give you kind of a half answer and then I'll follow up additionally. The good news is that it sounds like in their very most recent conversations that the proponents have heard from enough cities who have said, hey, we want to do our comprehensive plan well. We take very seriously the work that you have done and the bills that you have passed over the last few years in order to really reflect the work that is required to implement and execute those bills. We just need a little space to do this comprehensive plan update, and then we want to do it at the 5-year update. It sounds like they're going to move in that direction. Again, nothing is over. It ain't over until they adjourn, sign, and die. So we will see, but that would give us the time to be mindful of what the legislature is interested in without needing to really make changes and go backwards. The challenge for us, based on, and you know a lot about this based on your experience with the Planning Commission, is we may, and here's where I get into kind of onto some thin ice and want to make sure I am not incorrect, it may slow down or make us duplicate some of our environmental impact work, which has been pretty extensive. And so if we were required to reflect it in this comprehensive plan update, it may push out the adoption of the comprehensive plan, and it may duplicate both the work and the cost to do a lot of that environmental impact, which also includes a lot of community engagement and outreach. And so we would have to potentially redo or do differently a lot of that work, because it would not affect the entire city, but it would involve a lot of different areas. And that will depend on how they define the bill. Will the bill include just light rail? Will it include bus rapid transit? What will the walk shed be? What will the parking requirements be? There are a lot of other details in the bill that we're paying attention to. What will the floor area ratio requirements be? It gets quite into the weeds in some of the bill drafts. So the timing is the overarching concern, because with it, there are a lot of different details packed into it, and to be able to reflect all of those new requirements will be really hard given where we're at in the comp plan process. So I hope that was an okay answer.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll coordinate with our subject matter experts to find out how much of that I got wrong, but I feel like
I think you got it perfect.
I think
Thank you.
I'm close. Thank
Okay,
you.
Just have 3 thoughts.
Yes,
One,
Mayor.
on House Bill 1110, are they looking at how neighborhood covenants are going to affect the implementation of that bill? Number 2, with the TOD, is Senator Leas bringing back his TOD bill, because that seemed like it was narrowly defeated. And then number 3, on the city action days, I think on the 8th is the BDA annual event. So got to make sure that we don't miss that.
So those are excellent questions and so efficient. Number 1, I will find out. I know it was part of the conversation last year around covenants, but I think that they investigated that with the Attorney General's office, and that was asked and answered, which is that those stand. But I will verify and double check with Brianna, our consultant. TOD, it looks like it will not be Senator Leas. Looks like he will not be the prime sponsor. It will be Senator Trudeau, I believe, who is Representative Fai's seatmate. So those 2 Tacoma members, as well as Representative Reed in the House. It'll be the 3 of them leading the charge. And then in terms of the BDA event intersecting with City Action Days, if that does intersect on the second day, which is I think what it is, you should be out of Olympia by lunchtime.
Okay.
Typically the way that runs. And so we'll make sure that you can manage to be in all the important places at once. So thank you for seeing that potential intersection. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other comments or questions, Councilmember Lee?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to share a little bit with the council about the question Councilmember Neuenhuis brought up about AWC, and that I think goes with the other stakeholders as well. We have people who are, myself and I think maybe a couple others, very much involved in the National League of Cities, and that is actually part of the organization process through AWC to move on to National League of Cities. So I think the question is very well made that we need to have a more connected representation at every level. And so I think we actually do have connection, but we just don't have the breadth to connect every place that's necessary to provide some leadership position, to provide the help the city staff and ourselves can also provide. So that goes to Sun City as well. We depend on them, we work with them very closely, but we do not have representation. And we contribute to them. We give them our annual contribution, significant. So I think that's a very valid question. I like to see how we can use those and to make ourselves better represented at all the levels.
I think Councilmember Lee brings up a really good point, and I think that's something we've talked about, is assessing the value of all the different organizations, whether it's AWC or National League of Cities or the Sound Cities and all the other things and figuring out where we best put our efforts and our energies. So I know you will be coming back to us with some of that information, am I right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's a really timely comment to provide right now as you all reorganize and really take stock of where you want to spend your political capital and your time and Bellevue's voice. I think there can be really great benefits to ascending to leadership in those organizations and really help shape them from within. So I would love to be a resource to the council in helping understand what those opportunities are and where the best, where the juice is worth the squeeze, as they say. So that's a very good point, Councilmember.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, not seeing any. I believe we are at the end of our agenda, and we are adjourned.